Lawyers of Reddit, what is the dumbest thing your client has ever done? Story from a friend of mine. He was defending a guy in court. Don't remember what he was charged with. The main witness for prosecution was on the stand and was asked if she could identify the defendant. She was scanning the courtroom and seemed confused. My friend was already silently celebrating because if she couldn't identify him, he could probably get all charge dropped. As he was mentally adding this case to the win file, he happened to glance over at his client, who had just helpfully raised his hand to make it easier for her to identify him. Even the judge facepalmed on that one. Wore a shirt that said natural born killer on it to a hearing for an assault charge. I had him turn it inside out. He went down anyway, but at least it was for, actually assaulting someone, rather than the shirt. Cashed in their retirement while in bankruptcy. When it is cash, it is not protected. My all-time favorite is a client I had who was charged with driving under the influence, DUI, who wanted to challenge the charges on the grounds he didn't think he was drunk and the tests was administered improperly, who appeared at his court hearings rip-roaring drunk, twice, and then, both times, he got into his car and tried to drive away, and both times, the police promptly stopped him, administered a breathalyzer and charged him with DUI and related offenses. We didn't win that case. I was in court contesting a traffic ticket and saw something like this. The guy was in court for a DUI and was 7 sheets to the wind. He was taken out in shackles, fell over twice. Told a client don't say anything to the police, wait until I get there, confesses to a crime he wasn't being investigated for. Not my client, but I was on the prosecutor's side when a defendant failed to appear for court. His attorney can't reach him, nobody know where he is, so we all sit there for about half an hour, until the judge gets sick of it and moves on with the docket. We found out later that day that the defendant decided to rob a 7/11 the night before and was sitting in jail 2 counties over when he should have been in court. Well, he did need money to pay his lawyer. I used to represent patients who were involuntarily committed because of a mental illness, so I wouldn't describe them as dumb, but still. Clerk, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Client, no, this happened a dozen different times. Had a client show up to a child custody hearing high on methamphetamine. When she arrived, she began screaming at the judge and demanding that her no good M-head baby daddy be drug tested. I took her in the hallway and told her that if the judge ordered a drug test for the dad, he would have to order one for her. End of argument. I worked for the public defender's office and met a client in jail for a lineup that he had adamantly demanded regarding a crime with multiple witnesses. I met the client for the first time in a separate room to let him know how it would go down and what to expect. This is the kind of lineup you traditionally see on television where there are a number of similar looking people standing shoulder to shoulder in front of mirrored glass. They pull the people for the lineup from the jail population, and despite their best efforts this is not a huge population. I walk in to meet the client and he has a sty on his left lower eyelid the size of a golf ball. It was the most identifiable mark on a human's face I have ever seen. He still demanded the lineup and was identified instantly by every single witness without a shred of doubt in their mind. He still demanded a trial and the sty was gone by the time the trial commenced. I had one of these. Defendant robbed his friends at gunpoint in their home wearing a Halloween mask he had shown them the day before and wearing a short-sleeved shirt that displayed his distinctive sleeve of tattoos. Facepalm. Judge was determining if a defendant qualified for a public defender. Judge, sir, do you have any income? Defendant, yes, Your Honor. Judge, from what source do you have income? Defendant, selling marijuana, Your Honor. This happened in Illinois, and the defendant was not under oath. Honesty is the best policy, unless it involves telling a judge you sell weed for a living. I represent clients before the IRS. Had a couple who owed around $250,000 in back taxes. We had no defense, so the only thing to do was have the clients meet with the IRS and plead for leniency. Well, the wife got arrogant with the IRS agent, and at one point stood up and screamed at the IRS agent, who was a pretty decent person, making a very middle-class wage. "You'll take away my Mercedes over my dead body." Then she stormed out of the conference room. Needless to say, she lost the Mercedes. Not a lawyer, But this happened in court. My dad was suing a customer for non-payment. The judge ruled in his favor for the whole $15K. The guy he was suing got up to leave, but walked over to my dad and said, "If you think you are going to see a dime of that money, you are a freaking moron. I will kill you first." He then walked away. For a second my dad was worried the guy would get away with the threat, but he didn't worry much because the guy had said it loud enough for the bailiff and the judge to hear. He did not make it out of the courtroom. My dad was a lawyer in the Navy. One of his first big cases was defending a guy accused of falling asleep at his post during Vietnam. My dad was all psyched, delivering what he thought was well-prepared defense to the judge. The judge interrupted him, telling him to turn around and wake up his client. Guy might have had some type of disorder. A client in a pie case claiming damage to their lower back posted pictures of themselves to their Facebook page riding jet skis and horses. The defense subpoenaed the client's Facebook page. Accidentally admitted to the crime in his direct examination. Facepum. The case had gone on for years. Client was badly injured in a car accident and was about to win millions. Then she posted a Facebook status about her doing something very active and thus negating the entire case. Had to settle for $100,000. Years of work down the drain in one Facebook status. Attorney servant of process. This is Jen from Judge Grumpyface's office. Your client, who I see is charged with harassing phone calls, left us 87 messages over the weekend. The judge would like a word with you. You see, Your Honor, I couldn't be the one harassing my ex because I spent my weekend harassing you. I had a brilliant gentleman on probation for narcotics trafficking and was not permitted to use a cell phone. He went in for a drug test with his probation officer, and his cell rang in his pocket. The PO went to take the phone from his pocket and also pulled out a large baggie of cocaine that he brought to his drug test. A, B and C are drinking and playing cards. A shoots B with a crossbow, just happened to have one. B staggers out into the street where, naturally, he attracts some attention. A flees. Police follow blood trail back to the scene to find C, my eventual client, mopping up the blood, placing the crossbow bolt in a garbage bag, and generally tidying up, charged with tampering with evidence. I never understood why his internal housewife took over and kept him from calling 911. She has a restraining order on you. You absolutely cannot contact her anymore. They moved in together. Fortunately, I was not the attorney in question, but guy is convicted of some traffic-related offense, loses his driver's license effective immediately, gets in the car and drives home, along with his lawyer. I remember watching a short little blurb about the number of people that drive to the DMV to get their expired licenses renewed, even the ones who go, fail the test, then drive home. Not my client and not my case, but a colleague was defending a driver in a wrongful death case. The first question at his deposition was, "Please state your name for the record." The driver stood up and started screaming at the plaintiff's attorney and threatened to kill him. That went well. Didn't happen to me, but happened to an attorney I know. Client shows up for prelim hearing on domestic violence petition. Is wearing ratty shirt but his attorney doesn't pay attention to it. Attorney starts arguing and sees a judge turning bright red, fuming with anger. Judge asks the attorney if he spoke with his client about courtroom attire. Attorney looks down. Client is wearing a shirt that says "I have the dong so I make the rules." My law teacher would tell stories about a juvenile court he used to work in one of the more questionable areas of California. Apparently they had a real problem with defendants coming in with sagging pants and court officials showing up in beach clothes. The judge finally got so fed up with it that he kept a box of rope for an impromptu belt and a box of neckties behind his desk, and he'd begin court proceedings by lobbing ample amounts of both over his stand at anyone he felt was in need of them. The cops in my preliminary hearing showed up in camo shorts and beaters. I was wearing suit and tie. Family law case. Judge had asked to interview the minor child in a closed courtroom with no parents. Attorneys could stay. When done, client Ray enters the courtroom to see the child crying and promptly tells the judge that he is freaking ret. Right up to that point, my client was winning and was about to have the other party's parenting time suspended. The kid had said the other party abuses him and that he did not want to see that parent anymore. Judge was not pleased. Other party's parenting time suspended. My client has anger management classes ordered, fines, psych testing, and drug testing. During a divorce, the ex-husband claimed that he didn't make much or any money and wasn't able to pay the child support we were asking him to pay. A few hours after receiving this information, he posts a picture on his public Facebook of a wad of cash talking about how balanced he was. Needless to say, his claim didn't hold up after that. In his defense, people who post pictures of cash normally are poor. That's why they're so excited to have whatever money they do have. I got your domestic violence charges dismissed. Goes home after hearing and beats up wife. Yeah, the D should have pushed for counseling and probation. That was everybody's bad there. Not my client, but in a well-known prisoner civil rights suit, the prisoner, acting pro se of course, filed a motion to kiss my ass in which he requested that America at large, and one corrupt judge bend over and kiss his ass. The motion was denied. I'm going to allow it. At first appearance, a defendant stood there calmly and quietly when the judge was reading his charges and bond information. When the judge asked if the defendant had any questions, the defendant gave the judge the finger and said, "Frick you, mother sucker, go frick yourself," and then proceeded to throw down the microphone and walk away. The judge, who had been on the bench for years, replied, "Well, I guess I'll let you know when my fan club meets." My sister is a public defender. She recently had a shoplifting case where the defendant was caught in possession of stolen goods which happened to match a list, also in his possession, entitled "Crap to Steal from Walmart." Client was an accountant for a good size company. During the recession she was laid off and filed for unemployment where claimed she made $200k plus salary. Real salary was $60k. The company received the unemployment claim, investigated, and found out she embezzled millions. So I'm a law student, but I work at a volunteer desk that helps people complete the forms for court. The awful part is I can't give any legal advice since I'm not a lawyer, which means I can't tell these people they don't have a case. However, the stories are great. They're the lady who sues celebrities. She asked me to help her sue Robert De Niro. Someone else helped her with a suit for Matthew McConaughey. She was doing it on behalf of her kids and their fathers for in excess of $100 million. She didn't even know how to spell their names. Then, there's the guy who is suing DirecTV, CNN, Fox, and who knows who else. Apparently, he's the one you have to THNK for putting color on your TV shows and adding animation. He was suing because they hadn't paid him, ever. Finally, there's the lady who is suing her former employer for giving her too much money on her last paycheck. She told me they did it because they liked her and wanted her to come back. There was maybe $60 extra on the check. She was suing for $10,000. Not a lawyer but in court for a ticket. Apparently the cop lost the ticket book so there was no official evidence. The judge said, "The next 15 on the docket. I was luckily one of the 15. Just needed to say not guilty since there was no evidence." One moron got up there and started to argue that he was only going 5 miles per hour over not 10. The judge looked at him and said, "Son, just say not guilty." The guy again said, "But I wasn't going that fast." The judge laughed and repeated again, "Son, just say 2 words for me, not and guilty." The guy, confused, mumbled not guilty in the form of a question. The judge said dismissed. Everyone in the courtroom laughed and clapped for him. I'm not a lawyer, but the optometrist that I went to had an officer manager that was marking on people's accounts that they got refund checks and crediting the balance, then cashing them herself. She took $50,000 in a year and got caught. When asked why she did it, she said, "No one told me I couldn't." Airtight argument. So I was representing a kid accused of conspiracy to supply drugs. He was accused of acting as a lookout, warning the others whenever the police were approaching. He had a fantastic case and it looked like he was going to win. On the day of trial he turned up for trial wearing a huge t-shirt with the Warner Brothers logo on. Above and below the WB logo was printed, "If you see the pigs, Warner Brother." He refused to change. Nah blood, no white boy tells me how to dress. He was convicted. I'm a legal secretary. It's illegal to kill crocodiles in Australia, so our client filmed himself and his friends doing it. Funnily enough, they got caught. Going to be kind of hard to disprove a video that clearly shows the animal being killed and subsequent celebration. Plus photos with the carcass. What an idiot. Another guy robbed the pub he worked for, stole the work ute, drove to the city, went straight to the casino, parked the work car in the lot, lost $10,000 playing blackjack, then bought $2 each and was entertaining them when the cops arrested him. A classic. There are probably others, but I've been doing this for 10 years so they've all blurred together. People are dumb. You have been visited by party pug. He just wants you to celebrate with him. Comment woohoo to celebrate with the party pug.